Greetings of the day to all my children. Let us discuss about the ball poem today with your ma'am Vicheta. The ball poem is the fifth poem of your first flight book composed by John Berryman, who was an American poet. He is best known for his work Dream Songs. This is a collection of his 385 poems. Berryman won Pulitzer Prize for this work. So before commencing the proper explanation of the poem, let me tell you a brief introduction to it. Students, through this poem, the poet has described the reality of life which one has to face one day. When a child takes birth, he is unaware of the sense of losing something. He only enjoys the worldly possessions offered to him by his parents or elders. But gradually, when he grows old, he senses his first responsibility and understands the nature of losing his possessions and materialistic things. Now, let's read the line-to-line explanation, children. Let us discuss the first paragraph. What is the boy now who has lost his ball? What is he to do? I saw it go merrily bouncing down the street and then merrily over. There it is in the water. So children, when the poem begins, we find the poet is discussing about a boy who has recently lost his ball. So in this poem, children, the ball is personified as childhood memories. The poet is talking about a boy who has lost his ball. He was playing with the ball beside the seashore. Suddenly, the ball skipped from his hand and went to the harbor. So, the poet here says that the sight of the boy losing his favorite ball or the only toy thing made him think about the boy and his reaction to the situation. In this poem, the poet feels so much attached, attached with the boy, how he is going to describe how he will respond to the present situation. The poet is saying that what is the boy now? What will the boy do now? The boy who was playing with his ball and after losing his ball, how will the boy react? What will the boy do now? What is he to do? What is he supposed to do and how he will react? I saw it go. I here refers to the poet who saw the ball going or bouncing happily. Merrily means happily bouncing across the street and sinking into the harbor. Then merrily over, then it is in the water. So across the street, across the seashore, the ball went to the harbor, the ball with which the boy was playing before a few minutes ago. So the poet feels very sad to see the boy in that unhappy mood. The boy is finding himself unable to accept this bitter reality of life, that the ball with which he was playing, he has finally lost it forever. Actually, the ball is personified here. The ball is personified as childhood memories which one possesses. So, in the next paragraph, let us read. No use to say, oh, there are other balls. An ultimate shaking grief fixes the boy as he stands rigid, trembling, staring down all his young days into the harbor where his ball went. So the poet is saying that it will be of no use to say that, oh, there are other balls. The poet is expressing here that the poet will not interrupt and intervene in boy's grief. Though he knew very well the boy was feeling very disheartened and dejected after losing his ball, but the poet says here that the poet will not intervene, the poet will not try to console him. He will not say that there are other balls, because the poet values here the childhood memories which were associated with the ball. So the poet here says that there will be of no use to say, oh, there are other balls, because the poet realizes that it is a very painful thing or the bitter reality for the boy to realize that he finally has lost his ball. He knew that it will take some time. The boy will not be able to accept the reality soon. He will take some time. So, the poet expresses here that an ultimate shaking grief fixes the boy. This is an ultimate shaking grief. The boy was feeling so much disheartened, dejected, and sorrowful. This ultimate sorrow has frozen the boy. The boy has fixed. The boy was not in that condition to react. He stood affixed beside the seashore. He stood still. He stands rigid. He was not in that condition to accept the reality. He was not moving at all. Rather, he was trembling with fear. He was shivering with fear, because all of a sudden it happened. He never realized, he never thought of losing his worldly possessions. The ball was the only thing with which he would play. And now he was thinking how to react and what to do, what he will do now. And he kept on gazing, staring down. He kept on gazing down all his young days into the harbor where his ball went. So he further says that the boy was helplessly looking at the harbor where his ball had gone. He was continuously gazing at the harbor where his ball had gone, and while looking at the harbor, he was recalling his happy and memorable days of his childhood. He was remembering the days when he would play with the ball beside the seashore. Then, further, I would not intrude on him a dime. Another ball is worthless. Now he senses his first responsibility in a world of possessions. People will take balls. Balls will be lost always, little boy. So in the third paragraph, children, he said that I would not intrude on him. The poet will not interrupt in his ultimate grief, because the poet knew that though it was very easy for him to say that he could buy another ball with the money, the ball he could easily manage to purchase another ball which is equivalent to a dime or 10 cents. Dime is a currency of USA which is equivalent to 10 cents. So 10 cents or 10 pesos. So though the ball costed only of a dime or 10 cents, but the poet will not dare to say that he could buy another ball with the money, because it would be worthless. It would prove worthless if he says so. If he says that the ball could be purchased with the money. Now he senses first responsibility in a world of possession, because the poet says that if he wanted, he could console the poor child by saying that he could buy new balls which was equivalent to a dime or 10 cents, but he knew that it would be of no use, because he may bring the ball back. He may bring the ball back, but he will not bring those memories and feelings back which were closely attached with that ball. That's why the poet here says that let him realize this. Let him realize his first responsibility. First time the boy has lost something. So according to the poet, the time has come, the appropriate moment has come and approached, that he should sense, he should realize his first responsibility in a world of possessions. When people will take balls, that there will be situations, there will be days when people will take, in this materialistic world, we will find number of people who will take the opportunity. Balls, who will take the balls here refers to the worldly possessions, the opportunities which one gets in further life. So the poet considers here the appropriate moment, that let the boy realize his first responsibility, that people will take, that there will be, when the child grows up, he has to know that people will try, sometimes people will try to grab the opportunities, people will try to snatch away the belongings of the boy, and other times balls will automatically be lost. At times we ourselves lose our worldly possessions, we ourselves lose our valuable things, little boy. So in this paragraph, the poet is trying to convince the boy that this is the right time for the boy to sense his first responsibility, that there are situations when we have to learn how to cope up with the losing thing, how to cope up with the existing situation. Then he says that, and no one buys a ball back. Money is external. He is learning well behind his desperate eyes the epistemology of loss, how to stand up, knowing what every man must one day know, and most know many days how to stand up. Then he says, and no one buys a ball back. No one, no person in this world is able to bring the memories back. No one can bring the memories back. Money is external. He is not here talking about the money, because money is external. Even money cannot purchase memories. Money cannot bring childhood memories back to the boy. One day people have to learn how to lose our thing and how to stand up against the worst situation. The poet, in this paragraph, the poet is trying to make the boy understand that there are situations, there are days when he has to learn how to cope up, how we can cope up with the stress, how we can cope up with the grief, how we can adjust ourselves with the existing situation. The thing which has lost, the memories, the childhood memories which we have lost, which we have already enjoyed, we cannot bring them back. We cannot cherish those, we can only cherish those memories in our heart, but we cannot bring those memories back to our life. They cannot become the part of our life. So gradually the poet is saying that the boy is learning, he is learning well behind his desperate means hopeless eyes. Gradually the boy is trying to learn well behind his hopeless eyes the epistemology of loss. The epistemology means understanding the nature of loss, which means that one day he will realize, or gradually after losing his ball, he is understanding the nature of loss, and he is also learning how to stand up, knowing what every man must one day know. He should not only realize his first responsibility, he should not only understand the nature of loss, rather A person should have the courage to stand up and know what every man must one day know. A person should have known that one day people will take our opportunity, people can snatch our possessions, and sometimes we ourselves can lose our possessions. We should learn how we can cope up with this type of situation, because everyone must one day know. This is the nature, this is the law of nature. Everything, we cannot keep all memories with us forever. We cannot keep all our worldly things and materialistic things forever with us. One day or the other day, every person has to realize that we have to lose worldly possessions, we have to lose opportunities, we have to lose our childhood memories. And many persons already know, many persons who have grown old, they have already realized this truth. They have already realized this truth, and they have already known how to stand up against the bitter reality of life. So I hope now, children, let us discuss the rhyming scheme of the poem. The poem is written in free verse. Let us discuss the literary devices used in the present poem. See, children, in the line, in the last fifth line, see, buys a ball back. Here it is used alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of consonant sounds at the start of two or more consecutive words. So, in last fifth line, buys a ball back, B, buys B, ball B, and back B. This is alliteration here. Then again you see last second line, man must. Here is again alliteration, figure of speech which is used here. Now, let us come to another figure of speech which is used in the poem, that is anaphora. Notice the first two lines, children. The very first word of the line, what is the boy now? What? And then second line, what is he to do? So, in the first two lines, we see that what is repeated in the starting or in the beginning of successive lines. So, children, anaphora. In anaphora, words are repeated at the beginning of successive clauses, phrases and sentences. In line 1 and 2 we see what, and in line 3rd and 4th again you can see merrily bouncing down the street, merrily over there it is in the word water. So merrily is repeated. Now another literary device which is used here, that is repetition. Children, a repetition is a figure of speech wherein a word or a group of words are repeated in order to emphasize any idea or emotion. So, in the line 2, what word is repeated? So, and in line 5, you can see ball's word is repeated. You can see not in ball's word is repeated. In last fifth line, children, ball's word is repeated. So here the figure of speech which is used, that is repetition. So I hope the poem is quite clear to you. Thank you.